Howdy, welcome to another episode of Fitfam podcast. This is Miss Natural Olympia Hilary.
And that's Doug the Formulator.
And we're excited to come to you and talk a little bit about kind of a subject we did in the previous podcast, but then we're going to take it a step further. We're going to be talking mainly at first about
The top reasons people fail at nutrition.
absolutely, and then we're going to go into optimal performance, actually into some details that are going to be pretty cool. A lot of you asked about, really what is the difference between, true high optimal performance. In other words, want to get the most out of your gains with muscle and whether it's strength or being able to be quick and speed and that type thing. And so we're going to go over some of those too that actually correlates to longevity. But let's start with the top reasons people fail at nutrition.
So number one, willpower over science. So all that means is if you're relying on willpower alone and your program isn't scientifically based, then it's going to be a failure.
Because we all lose willpower, right? And so I think that I like that about the science. I would love to
You're
go
a science
no
guy.
matter what. But I think that we have learned that there is something that we've learned scientifically that's over science, and that is your why. And your why many times will help you with the nutrition. Like, why am I skipping these fries or this situation? It's because I am someone that's healthy and strong for my kids, for my work, for my hobbies, and longevity in that. And so your why many times is the science, because that's what the science has shown, is that why you're doing something many times will determine how well you do it.
Okay, I love it. Number two, dialing in calories and portions. So I know people want to argue this fact, and they argue all you want, you're wrong. The fact of the matter is that portion control is a must, and it's a must for every one of us. And it's not just about weight gain. It's not just about fat. It's about overall health and longevity. So it's important to watch your caloric intake. So that doesn't mean that one needs to always be in a caloric deficit. That's not what we're talking about. A caloric deficit means that you are on a path for weight loss and you're trying to lose weight. What I'm talking about is portion size and portion control. Anytime we overeat and we overeat habitually, we've just created a terrible environment for our body to store fat. And too much stored fat creates a lot of issues.
Yeah, and we create a cascade of chemical reactions when we overeat, of the body trying to break down the food and then choosing which parts of the foods it breaks down. So, we need this protein, just for energy, and carbohydrate, be able to help the body function properly, and the fats for the brain. And so we're not focusing so much on these other chemicals because we've overloaded. There's too much there. And we have this cascade of chemicals that normally the body might take care of if it was just a bite here or a bite there. And, I'm kind of one of those people too that doesn't believe that a calorie is a calorie is a calorie, but people misunderstand that. You do need to know how many calories you're taking in, the portions, right? And how through a day. That's critical. But it's also true that the type of calories is important, because
Right.
like we said, if you overate a little bit with a vegetable, it's not going to cause any harm compared to
Exactly.
overeating on a bite of a Big Mac or a candy or something like that. So the second reason is not knowing your caloric intake. And that's why everyone should go to school, meaning everyone should know how to count calories, whether you do it long term or not. You have all these people out there saying, oh, you don't count calories, just do these types of fasting, intermittent, all this stuff. Look, no matter what you end up doing long term, you need to go through a phase where you know your calories. So
so that you know where your proteins come from, your fats come from, your carbohydrates come from, and understanding and knowing where and how much you consume and why you would need more on one day and why you would need less. So
absolutely.
Number three, when you cut out a specific macronutrient entirely. This is kind of a big one because there's a lot of people that love specific diets that then eliminate carbohydrates. And it's just leads to failure sometimes.
It'll always lead to failure. The body's meant to run off of glucose from carbohydrates, amino acids from protein, and fatty acids from fats, and they all have their very specific things that they do in the body, and they're critical. And you can manipulate the body by manipulating the macros, right? We'll go higher protein for a period of time, getting ready for the show for Hilary, then cut back, go higher carbohydrate. But that's a manipulation for an event. long term, your body needs all three of those, and eliminating any one of them, or even taking one down to 5% or less, is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah,
And
even myself, many people that compete in the sport that I compete in reduce carbohydrates entirely as they're getting ready to step on stage. I have never been a proponent of that, and even my new coach is not. Keeping your carbohydrates at least a decent level will make it so that when you are then off of getting ready for stage, you don't balloon up. And then, of course, there's the different types of fats. There's the different types of proteins, and there's a different type of carbohydrate. So acting like you have to eliminate a macronutrient entirely because of what it can do to the body one way or another is hogwash when you consume the proper macronutrient.
that's right. And I'll go against that for a statement, even though it's not really against it. We joke about it, is the macronutrients. There's four actually. And we say carbohydrates, proteins, and fats because they're the only three that support life, right? And so that's why we say don't cut one of those out. But the one you want to cut out is a macronutrient because it's 7 calories per gram. Remember, carbs and protein are only 4 calories per gram. So it's more calories per gram. Alcohol. But we shouldn't have it. It's a macronutrient that doesn't support life. Actually, it shortens life. And so alcohol should be eliminated. And
and it should, at the very least, not be part of your daily intake. If there are times that you do have alcohol, then limit it, obviously. But to have alcohol every day of your life and to act like it is supporting health is not true.
What's interesting with that, one last point on it is that we've dealt with a lot of people that are very high performance people, and even like the pro athletes, while they're in their career, right? They'd drink alcohol and I'd be like, oh, I'm going to do their blood work and prove them that, they need to get off of it. And their blood work was great. The liver was functioning because they were running such high performance and everything else was so clean that their body just burned through the alcohol. But then after they retire, all of a sudden the liver enzymes start coming up.
Remember, the habit is still there. Yeah. The habit of drinking alcohol is still there, but the habit of the working out and the games is now gone. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so number four. This one is interesting. And remember, we're talking about top reasons that nutrition fails. And this one is hidden health reasons.
Yeah, that's a big one because there are times, and I think in our experience in the last 3 decades, there a lot of times people say, well, I think something's wrong. And many times there isn't. It's just that they're not following the program, right? But there are times.
There are times. Definite times where somebody's like, I know there's something wrong. And an example is thyroid. If your thyroid is messed up, then it is going to mess with your ability to gain or lose weight.
Absolutely. And same thing with the liver, where your body stores glycogen. And any one of the major organs, if it's stressed or there's a problem with it, that it's something more serious, that it can affect your body and how you take in the nutrition, how you digest it, how you assimilate it, deliver it to the cells. And so the simple answer to that one is blood work. Just get your blood work ran, and then you're able to see, we look at the basic panel, we look right away. We look at thyroid, we see how they digest protein, carbs, and fats. We look at liver, kidneys, all these things that really we know. And we've had some clients that their macros were just off compared to what they should be genetically. Yeah. Right.
Yep. And so, what they digest better than other things.
In your case, if we went with a higher fat diet, it would not do good because Hilary doesn't digest fats well. And so knowing that, and we knew that from the blood work. Right. Perfect.
Okay. So number 5 is no plan. So, and that seems funny, but how often are people like, no, I'll just do better?
They call it the seafood diet.
There's no plan there, so you need to know what you're going to do better at. Okay, that one's easy.
It is, and I think that it's easy, though, for people to get into that rut, meaning they're like, hey, look, I tried the keto diet, then there's research came out and said that, and I did the K-Man, and I've done all this. They're going to come out and say it's not good for you anyway sometimes, so I'm just going to not have a plan. Well, that's just an excuse.
And it is an excuse. And within my family, I hear this one all the time. Well, I wouldn't want to live. I wouldn't want to live if I have to eat so healthy. And it's like, really? You wouldn't? Because I think you would. I think you would choose if death is knocking at your door or you just clean up your diet a little bit. I think you're going to clean up your diet.
Well, and in reality, to say that is very selfish because the truth of the matter is if you're saying that, you're saying you don't care about your spouse that much, your kids that much, your grandkids that much, that you don't need to be around for them or you shouldn't be around for them. And even if you
And
don't feel that, you don't like them, they love you. And so you need to be around.
so true.
So quit being selfish, get off that
But
one.
also, it's also a falsehood to think that eating healthy can't taste delicious. That is wrong. We create many healthy menus, and most of the way that we eat tastes great. Can you think of things that you eat that you don't want to eat?
No, and I'm the type of guy that probably would anyways, because I'm more of the 80s and 90s guy that, the protein shakes tasted like cardboard and that and the bars. But Hillary is right, is there's no reason you can't make things taste good, even at her level when she has to cut out everything you can think of.
Yeah.
And so no plan, that's a problem. It's a reason it fell. And there's no reason to not have a plan. They're all excuses.
Number 6, not eating enough protein.
Boop, boop. So that's a touchy one. Son of a gun.
Doug's not going to love this one. I love this one.
So here's the deal. The deal is I love protein more than everyone else. What do you think about that? You don't agree? People get mad and they're like, wait, you're a sports nutritionist, but yet you're always saying we don't need as much protein. And the fact of the matter is I love protein more than other people. And the reason I say that is protein is absolutely critical. And that's where this came in, is not eating enough protein. You need protein for satiety, so to be able to help with cravings, you need protein for muscle, you need protein. Protein acts like a diuretic. It helps to get rid of excess inflammation in the body. Got that. But if you consume too much protein, your body will start relying on that protein as energy. It will take that protein and go through it. It'll go through a process of gluconeogenesis where you basically take that protein and you actually create it into a glucose, into energy.
We're talking about not getting enough protein.
I got it. But my point is that we need enough, but we don't need excess. The excess is where that comes into play. And so I'm a big fan of protein sparing carbohydrates. In other words, you need enough protein, but you need to make sure that you have enough carbohydrates there so that your body can use the protein for what only protein should be used for. In that case, boom, that's awesome.
So let me give you a few examples of some good sources of protein. White fish, clean protein powders, although don't use them excessively, egg whites, eggs, ground turkey, the leaner the better, chicken, the leaner the better. So white meat chicken is better than dark, but dark over others. And what is not a great source of protein?
Good protein, beans, lentils.
And beans and lentils. When you're talking about vegetarian, beans and lentils are a great option. Tofu as well. But when we're speaking of proteins in general, red meats and porks, they're just not easy on the body to digest. Now, venison is a better option because that animal is more active. If you're a meat eater, just remember the more active the animal, the better and cleaner the protein is.
That's probably the greatest piece of advice that's not talked about enough, is just to look at the animal. So why do we think pork and cows so bad? Not think, we know based on the research. They're lazy.
Yeah, so buffalo, ostrich, think about those animals. They're a lot more active than others.
So that was kind of a play off of that one. Sorry, not eating enough protein.
Yeah.
And so how much protein? You have a lot of people that fill a gram per pound a day. I feel that's really pushing it unless you're an athlete, and that the research shows it's closer to about 3/4 of a gram per pound of protein a day. But somewhere within there, you're good. And the cleaner the protein, the more you can have, the more enzymes you take, the more protein you can have, because it's not excess protein that causes a problem. It's the excess non-digested proteins that cause a problem. So the more you digest, better you are.
Perfect. So 7 is mindless eating, and I am wholeheartedly guilty of this. If I get lazy or I get bored at home, then I just want to eat. There's something about eating that is comforting to me, and so I turn to snacks when in reality, there's no basis of hunger behind it. I just want to eat. So being mindful about eating is really important. And honestly, I think sometimes just catching yourself, right? So when you do start to snack, just kind of stop and ask yourself, am I hungry? And if you are hungry, is this the best option? And sometimes you'll succeed at that, sometimes you won't. But mindless eating, it's a habit. So once you start to catch yourself doing it, you can catch yourself the next day, and the next day, and it can become something that you get better at.
Absolutely. It's a good one.
8 is poor choices. You just make crappy choices when you eat. Do I have to go into that one?
Yeah, just for a little bit. I mean, poor choices is like kind of the one before that when the mindless eating. Sometimes you just get yourself in position and you're hungry, right? And so the poor choices are, look, if you're going to have something, then you just need to know what to choose. And I think Hillary's probably the best at it. Is like, okay, we feel like snacking, we're going on this drive, we're doing that. What are some of the options? And mine's always simple. It's just the closer to the raw, the better. So you're going to stop and get the carrot sticks and the celery, and people are like, oh, that's crazy. But for driving, most of the times, it's just the action of
Yeah.
chopping on something, right? Things like that.
So staying
But
away from things that are heavily processed
yeah,
is a great option. If you're going to eat something that's processed, make sure it's not super high in fat or sugar. That's kind of a way to look at that. If I'm going to eat something that's highly processed, I'm going to eat a baked chip instead of a fried chip. You know, really, really easy to look at things that way. Also, when you're talking about having or like driving and having choices, poor choices, as long as you have it on you, I think that it's easier to make the good choice, right? So just planning ahead of time. And Doug's right, carrots, celery, that kind of thing. But cut up apples, have berries on you, raw nuts, raisins. My grandson will come to the house and he will ask for cashews and raisins. That's the snack he wants. And they're raw cashews and it's delicious. And so sometimes it's just about combining some things to make them taste better to you.
absolutely.
9.
Not not monitoring progress.
I like that one
Yeah,
actually. Not it's just like if you're in the gym and you're not tracking how much weight you're lifting, you're never creating that resistance or that overload.
hmm,
So it's the same concept when you're eating. If you're not tracking what you're eating, even for just a time, then you really don't know how much of what you're getting and you could be overeating.
absolutely. And then the last one is sleep. And I think that this one isn't talked about enough, but your body goes through circadian cycles, and meaning that it does different things at different times, or it wants to, whether it is focusing on digestion, on recovery, right, on cell maintenance, on cell autophagy, all these different things. And the one of the main components of optimal health is what your body goes through while you sleep, and through the process of the cleansing of the cells and the fast, if you would. And sleep is critical for people to be able to stick to the nutrition programs. And one of the reasons they fail at the nutrition programs is a lack of sleep. And so that's one of the
And
things.
you know, when you're getting proper sleep, your hormones get balanced. It's easy to look at hormonal imbalances when we're talking about cravings and overeating and that kind of thing. So making sure you keep those hormones balanced will help immensely with nutrition.
Absolutely. So let's finish up today, since we took a little bit longer with this one. We'll go into the performance specific
I like
protocols
it.
next time, but let's kind of finish up with this. And we're talking earlier about the nutrition and failing. And a lot of times people will get led, to and fro based on the latest, programs that are out there, and hype, and influencers promoting different diets and different things like that, right? And it's amazing that everything is cyclic. We're talking about circadian cycles. Everything runs in cycles,
It's
and
just a new name.
a new name. We've been around long enough to see them, from the high protein to the Atkins to the caveman. They're all the same type programs, but they come up with a new name, and then people are hyping them, and they go with them. And eventually someone is called out, and is found out to be more of a fraud at something, like, Dr. Atkins had own health issues because he was eating just high protein, right? Liver King, different things like that. And so I'd like to mention something with this, and may hopefully not offend anyone. And it is, look, we get questions a lot. I have a friend that um, practices Ramadan. He was an athlete with the Suns for one. He said, man, should I do this? Because a lot of people are telling me for my performance, it's not the best thing to do. And I'm like, how do you believe in what your religion teaches? And he's like, yeah, then we'll find a way to make it to where it benefits you, because that belief, that strength in the core of where that comes from, that nutrition that he's being taught, he believed was from his creator, then that itself will allow him to get benefit from it, right? And so, and the diet was just fasting during a certain time of the year, and so we were able to work through that. But I think that is an important point too, because there's a lot of religions out there that teach great things. The healthiest group of people in the world right now are Seventh-day Adventists, right? Because they strictly stick to their protocols of that vegetarian whole food lifestyle, and they believe it from a religious standpoint, which allows them to even be more dedicated and believe they're going to get more from it. And so they do get more from it, right? That whole placebo effect up to 30%. But a lot of times people will overlook that in different religions. I know there's different health protocols for a lot of different religions that are out there, right? Like we talk Seventh-day Adventists, whether you're Muslim or anything like that, LDS, Mormons, right? They have Word of Wisdom. And yet a lot of times people will be real strict in their religion, but then go out and say, well, I'm going to try this diet. But it goes against even their religious beliefs of what at their core they do believe in. And I think it's good for people to look at that once in a while and say, look, wait, is this actually vary from what my core belief is? And the same holds true with the actual healthiest people in the world as far as disease risk. The longevity are Seventh-day Adventists, but as far as the least disease are the Amish. But they're drawn by their religious belief, in a way of life.
Look at their even though they might eat pork or red meat and that kind of thing, they're growing and making everything that they're eating. So there's a big difference with that. Also, I do want to say that eating things closer to nature is going to be most beneficial, but your diet, what you do on a daily basis, what you constantly consume, that is your diet. So looking at your daily intake of food and really acknowledging whether you're somebody that's eating healthy for the most part or unhealthy for the most part, being honest with yourself can really help to create a better relationship with nutrition and how you want to eat. If you're eating a Reese's peanut butter cup every day of your life, well, your diet needs some help. If you're eating a Reese's peanut butter cup every once a week, and everything else is perfect, you're doing okay. So I just think it's just really important to acknowledge your diet, and what you're doing on a regular basis is your diet. I think sometimes people think, no, I'm doing good. But if they look back at the last 7 days, every single day they had fried food, or every other day they had fried food, or they consumed candy every one of those days. Alcohol every one of those days. So really being mindful and looking at what is my diet, and asking yourself that question can really help and put you on the right path.
Let's finish a couple quotes. Back in the late 80s, there was a Surgeon General, and my personal opinion is it was the last of them that before they were bought out and all this whole world political crap now, is there truly for our health. And the Surgeon General's report is the largest report ever produced by the government. It was in 1988. He came out, C. Everett Koop was his name, by the way. He said, you, the individual, can do more for your health and well-being than any doctor, any hospital, any drug, and any exotic medical device. That is huge, is to say, time out, with everything we've got going on, you can do more for your health and well-being. And so that's why we spend so much time on nutrition, because once you have the mindset, your health identity trait, by far and away the most important thing you can do, the thing you do consistently that's going to affect your health the most is nutrition. And I think it was kind of cool from the Surgeon General's report to get that. And I think finally is kind of really the definition of nutrition. I actually would have went down the wrong road and probably would end up like a dietitian or someone that just does things from the hospital and go off the books and just, junk. Calorie in.
Calorie is, what do you always say?
Calorie. Yeah. And all that BS that, thankfully, I had a mentor that came up and said, Doug, go to the medical dictionary. Back then, you actually got these books pulled off the shelf. Right?
What?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Interesting.
And people come sell them at the door. But anyways, and you go and read the definition of nutrition. And he said, nutrition is the sum of the processes involved in the taking in of nutriments. In other words, the eating that we've been talking about. But it's also the assimilating of them, the digesting them down, getting them assimilated into the bloodstream, and the utilizing of them, which is a metabolism at the cell level, getting them to the cell. So eating the food, digesting it, assimilating it into and being able to utilize in the cell is truly nutrition. And so as we talk about this, The big picture, think about it. You want to be able to eat the foods that not isn't just on the outside good, but they're going to digest easier. Or you add the enzymes back, like digestamil, to help digest them, get them going in the system. Have the probiotics, get them assimilated into the bloodstream. That's nutrition. Is what happens at the cell level after you took the bite of that food. That's really what it comes down to. That's why the consistency that Hilary mentioned about is so critical. Is what you do the majority of the time, disciplined on the daily basis, is who you are.
That's it.
Boom. So top reasons people fail and the top things you can do to not fail at your nutrition to be able to reach optimal health. Once again, thank you so much. Give us comments on what you think of the podcast and what other ones you would like to see as we go down this road of fitness. This is Miss Natural Olympia. Hilary?
And this is Doug the Formulator.
Keep chewing.
See you next time.